FNaF's difficulty has been one of the most argued about things in the whole franchise, if you count out the incredibly confusing lore. And so over the 10 years that FNaF has been running, there have been 18 different games, including the spin-offs and DLCs. But ever since the Security Breach's release, a big chunk of the community, including many die-hard fans that have been there since the very beginning, have come to the conclusion that as time moves on, these games have gotten more and more easier. But is that actually the case, and how hard are these games really? Well, that is exactly why I'm here today. So come and join me to answer gaming's most important question, or FNaF's most important question, in how hard is Five Nights at Freddy's really? Enjoy! First off, let's start with some ground rules. While I get every possible ending to experience all these games have to offer, all of the FNaF Max mods are off the table. So if you don't know, FNaF Max mods are what I consider to be the hardest challenges, most of the time quote unquote maxing out the custom nights in the given FNaF game. Also, this rating will be as objective as possible to give the right perspective for your viewing experience, whether you have thousands of hours in these games or none at all. Also, for your viewing pleasure, I will also place each and every game in this state-of-the-art tier list, because everybody loves tier lists. And for the last of our ground rules, well, things you need to know, is that I'll be playing the latest patch on PC. So, let's begin. Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Before I even go so far as to place this game in the tier lists, or any game at all, you need to understand how these games work. So, I'm sure many of you already know this, but just in case, let me summarize it as best as I can. FNaF 1's gameplay loop is probably as basic as can be. In all of the nights you start with 100% power, which slowly decreases as the night moves on, and one full night is 8 minutes and 55 seconds long. But the power can also be consumed by either using the cameras you have to see where the threats are, using the door lights to see if anyone is right outside your office and therefore not visible on the cameras, and lastly, to fend off the animatronics, you can close the respective door they're at. Also, as many of you probably already know, the main threats are the main 4 faces of FNaF itself. Bonnie, who will move through the left side of the building and who will always appear to your left door. Chica, who's the opposite of Bonnie, moving through the right side of the building, always appearing at your right door. Then to spice up the gameplay, the 2 other animatronics have completely different mechanics. First off, Foxy, who is always in Cam 1C or Pirate's Cove. He'll slowly progress out of his cove until you cannot see him anymore. At that point, you can either just close your left door, wait for him to knock, or again, close the left door but trigger his running animation on Cam 2A. Foxy also always takes a bit of your power every time he visits your office. The first time he's blocked, he takes 1%, the second time he takes 6%, the third time 11%, and so on. To slow him down, you can either look at his camera, or any camera if you feel like it. The game does not actually check if you're on Foxy's camera or not. Lastly, Freddy, who like Chica, moves to the right side of the building. He'll laugh 5 times, and unlike Chica, he'll stay at cam 4B forever, waiting until you flip up the cams to sneak into your office and jump scare you. To prevent that, you can either always close your door when flipping up the cams, or you can do this little trick which we call cam stalling, which I'll get to in a bit. Also, there's a secret animatronic, Golden Freddy, funny enough originally called Yellow Bear, who has a 1 in 100k chance to appear in cam 2B, where he will then sit in your office until you either die to him or flip off the cameras to make him disappear. When it comes to how these animatronics actually work, we need to understand the movement opportunity system these characters have, which can be quite complicated, but this will be important for most of the game, so bear with me. At its most basic, the movement system can be broken down into 2 parts: intervals and AI values. The intervals are different for each animatronic. It's simply just the amount of time it takes before an animatronic can move. For Freddy, it's every 3.02 seconds, for Bonnie every 4.97 seconds, for Chica every 4.98 seconds, and for Foxy every 5.01 seconds, which helps quickly desynchronize the animatronics so that they don't all move at the same time. Intervals will change across games, so I'll check in again when necessary. To then help an animatronic actually move, the game checks the AI values every time an interval passes. So as soon as an interval passes, the game will generate a random number between 1 and 20 for that animatronic. If the number is greater than the AI value, the animatronic will not move. If it's less than or equal to the AI value, the animatronic will move. Across the main 6 nights, the animatronic AI value is always at a set amount. So let's say it's night 6 and Chica has an AI value of 12. After interval timer passes, or roughly 5 seconds, a random number between 1 and 20 is generated. Let's say that number is 15. So since the number is greater than 12, Chica will not move to the dining hall. Another 4.98 seconds pass. This time the number is 6, so she will progress towards the dining hall. And this exact thing happens each time an interval passes for each animatronic separately. So to quickly sum it up, if an AI value is at 0, the animatronic will not advance at all throughout the night. You can think of the animatronic being disabled. And if the value is at 20, the animatronic will move every time their interval passes. Also, funnily enough, as the night goes on, the AI value of the animatronics go up as well. At 2 AM, Bonnie's AI level goes up by 1. At 3 AM, Bonnie, Foxy and Chica's AI level go up by 1. And at 4 AM, everyone but Freddy again goes up by 1. This happens on every night, which is also why you can see Foxy sometimes advancing even though it's night 1. Also, as a last add-on, Foxy's movement opportunity will always fail if you look at him during it. Again, it doesn't matter if you look at him, as long as you have the cameras up, he won't advance. Now, if you're still here after all my yapping, it's time to actually talk about the difficulty of FNaF 1. If you haven't played these games before, you'd probably think, damn, this game sounds really difficult. Well, you'd be wrong. While FNaF 1 is magnificent with its gameplay loop, all of it can be countered with one simple strategy, only being slightly hard if you were to try its max mode. But since we're not doing that today, it gets even easier. A strategy that's been figured out over the years makes quick work of all the animatronics with one simple cycle. It works best when all 4 animatronics are actually active, but can change with the more easier nights and works as follows. Check the left door light, if Bonnie's there, shut the door, flip up the cameras, have it be on cam 4B, flick them back down, check the right door light, if Chica's there, shut that door, then go back. Check cam, left door, cam, right door, cam. Repeating that kills whatever difficulty you're on. But how does this actually work? Well, I mentioned it before, but when Freddy's at his last spot, cam 4B, he can be cam stalled. Camera stalling is exclusive to certain animatronics and certain games, one of them being Freddy in FNaF 1. At its simplest, cam stalling prevents the animatronics to move as long as the camera is on them, whether you're currently looking at the cams or sitting in your office. So as long as you leave your cam on 4B, you're set for the whole night. The only thing interrupting this cycle is when you feel the need to check Foxy. Preferably you do this as soon as you shut the door on Chica, because when you leave the cam to check on Foxy, Freddy will most likely move into your office even if his interval timer isn't completed. If it's too late into the night and you need to check Foxy, you can also just shut the right door before checking. It's actually what most FNaF players did back in the day, closing the right door before flipping up the cams, but as you might think, that takes way too much power and isn't reliable at all. But it gets even easier. While not part of my rating, you can beat any night at any difficulty by doing absolutely nothing. Some of you may already be familiar with this, but Freddy, Chica and Bonnie cannot kill you while you AFK in the office. They'll only kill you or instantly advance once you flip up the cameras. The one animatronic preventing you from doing this is Foxy. What I didn't mention though, for a good reason, the strat is maximum cheese, is that Foxy, without looking at him, takes 1500 frames to get into your office. With the game running at 60 frames per second, it takes Foxy 25 seconds, I think, to get into your office at max difficulty. So if you're on PC, you can take an FPS limiter and limit down your FPS down to 2. If you do that, Foxy will not attack you at all. But again, this will not inflict FNaF 1's rating, just thought I'd mention it. So, FNaF 1. While difficult if you have no idea what you're doing, can be brought down to its knees with one simple cycle. I think pretty much anyone can do. So it's only fair that FNaF 1 goes into the lowest of the low, piss easy tier.
The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night, but
what? Five Nights at Freddy's 2. A sequel? A prequel? Who the fuck cares? How hard is this game? Now, that's a question worth answering. You'd think FNaF 2 would contain some of the old game's mechanics, like the doors. Well, wrong. FNaF 2 completely gets rid of the doors and adds one more entry to your office. The only thing that keeps this game from its predecessor are the cams, and I guess the lights.
That's 2 things.
This time the nights are 7 minutes long. Your defense relies solely on the mask given to you. When you see an animatronic either in your office standing there, menacingly, or in one of the 2 vents, you'll need to put on your mask to make them leave. You'll need to do this as quickly as possible, and especially when an animatronic is in your office. If one is in your office, you'll only have a set amount of time before it's too late. More on that later. When an animatronic comes in and you have your mask up, you cannot take it off during their stay. These animatronics are called blackout animatronics. As for vent animatronics, you need to listen for some sort of audio cue, mostly being noises like banging in the vents. This time, however, you're not just facing off, what, 4 animatronics? Nah, times 2 plus 3. FNaF 2 has one of the highest animatronic counts in the entire series. Similar to FNaF 1, 9 of these animatronics are dealt with the same way, being the mask. The other 2 are what spice up the gameplay loop by quite a lot. For Foxy, you'll need to flash the hall on a regular basis, the mask doesn't trick him. And lastly, the puppet, whose music box needs to be wound up by accessing the cameras. The higher the night number, the faster the music box winds down. You'll know when the music box time is running out when there's a flashing sign at the bottom of your screen. With the basics out of the way, how does FNaF 2 feel in terms of difficulty? Well, thank the very gods that this video is not including the max mods, because this is where the difficulty spikes. Let's get what, 500 likes on this video and I will make the video covering all the FNaF max modes. That aside, the 6 nights this video does cover are nothing you'll just brush off. FNaF 2 cycle still contains quick reaction times and good amounts of game knowledge. In broad strokes, the cycle is somewhat simple. You start off instantly switching your cams to cam 11 and you'll just wind the music box until you hear this ambient soundtrack.
No one is allowed in or out, especially concerning any...
This is where the true cycle begins. This soundtrack signals animatronic movement in either your hallway or your vents. Speaking of, if you ever cannot see into your hallway, that means that there's currently some sort of animatronic movement in there. But like I said, the cycle starts with flashing the left vent, flashing the hallway a couple times, and flashing the right vent. Again, really simple, but here's where I need to explain how Foxy's AI works. The intervals and AI are pretty much the same for all animatronics. But for Foxy, once he made his way from the back room to your hallway, his AI changes a bit. The intervals stay the same, but if he reaches your hallway, he's given an attack counter that slowly goes down from 50. If that number reaches 0 and Foxy's interval timer is complete, he will jumpscare you. But you can reset his attack counter every time you flash him, which is why you always need to flash the hallway a couple times when moving from the left to the right. To make him leave the hallway, he'll need to get a successful movement opportunity while also having his attack timer above 0. In addition to the cycle, you always want to put on your mask as fast as possible when going off the cams. Other notable animatronics include Mangle, who acts like an invisible vent animatronic. Editing IceeG here, my dumbass forgot to mention that Mangle will actually make this radio sound when she's in the vent. Which means he'll only leave once you have the mask on for a couple seconds. Golden Freddy, who only appears on night 6 and onwards, splits into 2 different mechanics. He'll either sit in the office, where you need to put on the mask, or his head will be visible in the hallway, where he'll jumpscare you if you flash him too much. This essentially stops you from blindly flashing into the hallway. And Toy Bonnie, who can be a real run killer. Toy Bonnie is essentially just a vent animatronic with a twist. Once you see him in the vent, he has a 50% chance to enter your office every 0.5 seconds, where he'll then act like a blackout animatronic, forcing you to have your mask on until he leaves. Lastly, I'd quickly like to mention that animatronics can actually force close your cams to trigger a blackout, which is why I said that reaction time and putting on your mask as quickly as possible is a key part for this game. So that again brings me to FNaF 2's rating. I was kinda torn with FNaF 2's placement for the tier list. It has an easy spot for mildly infuriating, but with all it has to offer, its somewhat difficult learning curve, and all the games coming up, I'm pretty certain it deserves its place in Desk Smashable. Oh shit. I forgot I have this little bitch. Five Nights at Freddy's 3. You either love it or you hate it, no in-betweens. But how hard is it really? Now that's a real question. Taking place in Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction. This game first introduced the multiple endings that will come to haunt me later on. Beside that, it actually halves the animatronic count down to 7, with only one animatronic actually being able to kill you. The one and only person to always come back, Spring Boy's Springtrap. You'd think that makes this game way easier than FNaF 2. To which I say, wait for my tier list placement, you impatient fuck. Jokes aside, FNaF 3's gameplay loop is actually really not that bad. Some would say, it's good. It's pretty simple. All you need to do is track Springtrap on the cameras and lure him away from your office with audio lures. Kind of new to the FNaF series are the vent cameras, which will be very useful to avoid Springtrap from taking a faster path towards your office. These vents can be sealed to avoid that exact thing from happening. In addition, there's another useful panel which we'll need to reboot certain systems with, i.e. when the ventilation goes out, you can't see anything on the cams, and if there's no more audio lures for you to use. The amount of audio lures change each night, so be on the lookout for that. Similarly to that, the camera system goes out if you're on the cameras for too long. As for ventilation, it can either go out if you idle in the office for 10 seconds, meaning you're doing absolutely nothing, or if you get jump scared by any of these 6 phantom animatronics. To quickly go over the phantoms, we have Phantom BB, who, as far as I know, can spawn on every camera. He'll jump scare you if you look at him for too long. Same goes for Phantom Chica, Puppet, and Mangle, with all of them having their own camera they chill at. Then there's Phantom Foxy, who spawn right beside the maintenance panel on the left side of your office. He'll jump scare you if you go too far to the left without you realizing he's there. Counteracting him is not that hard if you stay vigilant and slowly turn to the left, only going back on cams when seeing him to despawn him. Lastly, Phantom Freddy is pretty much the more punishing version of what happens if you idle too long. If you see him, he'll jump scare you if you're idling, or, not sure if this is confirmed yet, you hovering your mouse over him. He also has another mechanic which I'll mention in a bit. FNaF 3's cycle relies on one factor, RNG, or random number generation. And I guess you knowing how Springtrap works with his sound cues.
That's 2 things.
RNG is something you cannot control. Springtrap sometimes just decides to go his own way, I guess, and that pretty much is the only thing that makes this game hard. We'll get to it. The cycle you can control is split into 2.5 parts. Knowing how sound cues work and Springtrap, and I guess the phantoms, but that's just paying attention. So, the sound cues. Also split into 2 parts in visual and audio. First off, visual. Whether or not the cameras work, you will always see if Springtrap moves by the static on the screen. Works best if I just give you a visual example. You see him moving when the static becomes, more staticky. Then to help us further with the use of audio cues, we can pretty much exactly tell where Springtrap went. You can hear him either walking through the map or going into events. But most importantly, we can tell his exact location when he enters the lower half of the building, all with the help of this danger sound. This means he's either in cam 5, 4 or 3. And when it gets louder, he's either in cam 2 at the window in front of you or at cam 1. But to make this not too easy, the game has a clever workaround. Remember when I mentioned how Phantom Freddy has another mechanic? Well, if he's walking in front of your window, he'll play this exact danger sound. The final part of this cycle, or strategy I should say, is knowing where to keep Springtrap. There are 3 spots you can ideally keep him in. Cam 10 with the vent closed, Cam 6 again with the vent closed, or Cam 2 with, you guessed it, the vent closed. They all work in similar ways, boiling down to if he's not there anymore, use an audio lure, hope he goes back into the vent you sealed, and repeat. That is pretty much all this game is. As a final note, whether you go with the bad or good ending, at the end of the day, it doesn't change the difficulty of the game at all. With that said, it is pretty hard ranking a game based on RNG, but if you don't panic, react to the sound cues, and have a little bit of good RNG, it's pretty obvious where this game goes. It just barely scrapes itself as the first placement into our second to last tier, because FNaF 3 is okay. It's okay.
Hi.
Ooh, that's cam 11. Nope. It's cam 12? Yep. Fuck, he went through. Yep. Was that the bite of 87? Was that the bite of 83? Was this game even hard? No, that is why I'm here. Okay, I don't know if I should keep this bit going. Audio. That's the whole game. Kill me tier. Jokes aside, FNaF 4's gameplay itself is as simple as can be. The animatronics have 4 different entry points. 2 hallways, a closet, and a bed. On either side of the door, you need to listen for breathing. If you hear any, immediately close the door. Up to 3 Freddles can appear on the bed. If that happens, or if any at all spawn, you'll need to flash the bed until all of them leave. Lastly, we have the closet, which has its own little quirks. You see, Foxy isn't always inside the closet, which means it'll stay inactive until he actually enters it. More on that in a second. Once he's in there though, you can either hold it closed for a couple seconds or flash to see how close he is to jump scaring you. The AI and how the animatronics work is a very crucial part if you want to beat this game. The intervals and AI values in the way we talked about before stay the same. For Bonnie and Chica, they spawn in the middle of the center hallway. Once they have a successful movement opportunity, they'll move to the corridor of the center hallway. Now comes the interesting part. Here they actually have a chance to move back into the middle of the center hallway. For Chica, that movement is actually actually her going into the kitchen instead of the middle. I do not know if it's possible for them to do this the entire night though. If someone knows, please do shed some light on it in the comments. Now if either animatronic moves into your left or right hallway, you'll hear footsteps on their respective sides. When flashing their hallway now, you'll actually see them quickly move back. If they however move one more time, you'll hear even louder footsteps. At that point a timer starts. They'll wait at your door for 20 minus the night number seconds until they jumpscare you. Note that they only jumpscare you once you turn to or away from the bed or closet. Like I briefly mentioned, once they're at the door, you'll need to listen for breathing. Immediately shut it and wait for footsteps. If you however shut the door while they're in the hallway, they'll immediately teleport to the door. So open it and shut it again to avoid a jump scare. Then there's Foxy, who, like I mentioned before, won't immediately spawn inside your closet, but actually spawn at the exact same spot as Bonnie and Chica. His interval timer is also set at 5 seconds. Now he has a chance to either go to the left or right corner of the top hallway. Then another chance to either go to the other corner or enter your hallway. All of these have their own respective audio cues. Now you can either flash him in the hallway to spawn him back into the middle, or whether it's by accident or not, go to the hallway he isn't at, where he'll instantly enter into the closet. If that happens, immediately go to his closet because his progress meter is already very high. In the ideal run of the game, you want to keep Foxy outside the closet for as long as possible. You can, if you won't let him purposely enter your closet and do this kind of circle strategy where you go to the left door, bed, right door, closet, left door, and so on, but this isn't what I'd personally go for. Speaking of, the cycle or strategy is pretty simple for the normal nights. You'd want to go to the left door, bed, right door, and repeat. On top of that, you'd want to prioritize Foxy at all costs, since Bonnie and Chica stay at your door for way longer than you think. If you think it helps, you can also use a timer to keep track of the animatronics, but you probably won't need it. Lastly, as a little final boss, as some people call him, the gameplay loop on night 5 is completely different. This night is hell for anyone playing this on their family laptop, or phone, if you will. Fredbear's interval stands at every 3 seconds, and he works completely different to anything we talked about before. For this cycle, you need to listen for Fredbear's footsteps. These can range from him going to the right corner or left corner. Once he decides on a hallway, he'll silently move there. You can then see him if you flash your lights in his hallway. If you see him, you need to close that door as fast as possible and leave it closed until his next interval passes. So approximately 3 seconds. Including that, Fredbear has a chance to laugh and fake laugh. If he does a real laugh, he's either in your closet or on your bed and can be gotten rid of by shining the light on him or closing the closet door for a couple seconds. The fake laugh is just what the name implies. An audio cue plays, but he really isn't doing anything. If you're playing further than night 5, Fredbear and his emo counterpart will always appear at 4 AM, while all the others will disappear at that very moment. As a final note, Plush Trip's minigame is probably the freest and easiest minigame in the entire franchise. You'll need to either listen to his 5th sound cue, or to explain it easier, you'll hear these sound cues. As soon as you hear that last walking sound, you instantly flash. That's all this is. So, all in all, FNaF 4 is some of the most complex but really interesting AI and gameplay loop. My opinion aside, however audio reliable this game is, at a first playthrough it might seem impossibly hard, but believe it or not, you'll actually get the hang of it pretty fast. I originally was going to place it in mildly infuriating, but after careful consideration and a few other people's opinions, FNaF 4 is okay. I mean, it's harder than FNaF 3, yeah, but it's okay.
Was that the bite of 87?
FNaF World is known for being one of FNaF's most underrated games. But is that because of its difficulty? Let's find out. FNaF World's gameplay is probably the most unorthodox in the whole series. taking only the characters from its predecessors, but now changing up the gameplay by a lot. Taking up the traditional RPG or role-playing game approach. Essentially you have two parties made up of 4 different animatronics each, taken from a 48 character roster. How these are unlocked I'll get to in a second. Alongside that you're placed in a big overworld you can explore with a chance to encounter different kinds of enemies. Here you'll get into a turn-based fight. Each animatronic has their own little attacks, some good, some bad. You can also equip bites and chips which can be found and bought all throughout the overworld. After those fights there's a small chance you'll encounter a character. Once you defeat them, they'll enter your character roster and can therefore be selected into either one of your parties. If you'd like to know more about how the world and character encounter system works, I'd highly recommend you watch DJ Stir's video covering all of it. Beside that, in the newest update you can either glitch yourself into the Halloween update or go the intended route. You'll only unlock after beating the Scott boss fight. Here you'll find even more characters who can be unlocked by beating their minigames. Sometimes with fun requirements, but never with that much difficulty. Speaking of, as for strategies or cycles, there really aren't any. You can, if you want, use what has many different names. Unscrew Gang, Luck-Based Gang, or Screw Crew. This party consists of different animatronics with the same mechanic, being, as the name implies, unscrew. This attack has a 30% chance to insta-kill any enemy. Also, believe it or not, it can work on all bosses in the base game. However, that chance is very low. Some say 1 in 500, some a 0.0005% chance, but I couldn't really find a straight answer for it. If any of you know, please do share your knowledge in the comment section. As for the Halloween update's final boss, the most popular strategy involves a mix of the Halloween characters. Here you want to go for as many slasher attacks as possible, which has a small chance to deal 100,000 damage. Hit that up to 4 times and you officially defeated the final boss. So again, it's pretty hard to have a definitive answer for the difficulty, since it gets easier the more you play or the higher your character level is. The different endings too don't change the difficulty too much. But one thing is, for sure, is piss easy. The easiest one yet. Who knows if any game can top that? Stay around to figure it out.
Nah, that's fucking crazy.
Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. Why not brother's location? This game is sexy. Oh wait, I meant to make a different kind of joke. Well, why not how hard is it location? Yeah, that'll do. FNaF 5 or sister location is, well, an experience, to say the least. As some YouTubers already put it, it isn't the best of the series, but that's not why I'm here today. Let's talk difficulty. Alongside the fuck knows how long dialogue, the game features 5.5 noteworthy challenges aside the custom night, which again is not the point of today's video. We'll go through them in chronological order. First off, we have the Ballora Gallery and Funtime Foxy's Auditorium. The reason I'm combining both these is that while they have 2 different normal ways of clearing them, being only moving when you don't hear anything and moving while using the flash beacon not too many times and not too little times. However, this can all be negated by spamming the W key. This only works because of the way Scott coded the game. Essentially, both Foxy and Ballora get close to you if you hold the W key and go away if you stand still. Apparently you can still get jump scared if you spam W too fast, but that usually never happens. The next mini game, I don't know why I called these mini games, but whatever, takes place in the breaker room. Normally you're supposed to reboot the 8 different stations while keeping Funtime Freddy with Bonbon at bay. But since that takes ages and we only have limited time on the IceeG YouTube channel, we have yet another solution for this. You see, Funtime Freddy can only kill you on 2-second intervals. So if you set a timer at the start of the minigame just right and only reboot outside these 2-second intervals, you can actually completely avoid Funtime Freddy, making an almost 10-minute minigame turn into a less than 3 one. Skipping past the Funtime Freddy repair section, we encounter our next minigame at the start of night 4. This one is considered to be one of the hardest, especially on release day, but realistically, it's not that difficult. You're trapped inside a springlock suit and have to survive 3 minutes by keeping the springlocks wound up. You do this by going in a circular motion, while clicking and holding your mouse on each separate springlock. Along with that, every now and then you'll see a mini Rena climb up one of your mask's sides. Ideally, you want 2 climbing up at the same time and then wiggle your suit twice. You do this by pressing A, then D, then A, then D. Other notes that can help you, especially towards the end of the night, is that after 2 minutes and 15 seconds, seconds, each spring lock to about 3/4 of the way. Then when only 15 seconds are left, you should wind them up by just enough. It sounds stupid, but as you can see in my gameplay, I am only winding them up by just enough. Follow that one up with what could be the easiest minigame in all of Sister Location. You see there's a path you should walk with baby, using all the cupcakes in the right order without wasting any. It's what I would have said if I didn't die like 10 times during the recording of this. Now there's actually no proof footage for this, since I thought I'd beat it on the first couple attempts, but my stupid ass kept missing the jumps and was way too persistent to start up OBS and record this shit. So I hope I managed to recreate it somehow, but words cannot explain how much I struggled with this. Anyway, yeah, you need to complete this minigame to be able to access the secret ending in unlocking the private room by going forward and right instead of following baby's instructions. Contrary to popular belief, you only need to hold W and D to access it, no needing to press shift or moving your mouse. That aside, the private room night is actually 9 minutes long and has a similar office to FNaF 1. Alongside that, you have cameras to track Ennard, the main animatronic for this night, and a power meter that roughly drains 14% every hour. When it comes to the main man or animatronic itself, he's pretty straightforward. His interval timer is inactive for the first 40 seconds of the night, so either listen to hand unit or press some buttons in the office, but avoid using the cams at all costs. That goes for the entire night, by the way. Try using the cameras as sparingly as possible. Instead, try listening for Ennard like you do in FNaF 4. From his activation or 40 seconds in to 1 AM, his interval timer is at 10 seconds. From 1 to 3 AM, his interval timer gets reduced to 6 seconds. At 4 AM to 3 seconds. And lastly at 5 AM down to 2 seconds. Like I said, similar to FNaF 4, headphones are very useful here to determine his location. You'll hear him move in either your right ear, if he's on the right, in both, if he's in the vent, or in your left ear, if he's on the left side of the building. He also has a 1 in 25 chance to move without making a sound through the entire night. There's a strategy where you use a timer to always know his exact movement times, since they never change, but all this burns down to if you hear him move twice on the same side, check the cameras for a very short amount of time. If you see him close to your door or vent, close it before the next movement opportunity happens. This is how he looks one move away from entering, and this is how he looks when it's safe. You could also just close them when he's at a dangerous level, without counting the interval timer, but this takes a lot of power in the earlier hours, so keep the strategy for roughly 4 to 6 AM, since his movement intervals are very fast towards the end of the night. Two more important notes is that when you hear Ennard use any voice line, whether it's in Baby's or Elizabeth's voice,
I don't understand. Hello?
they mean nothing. Also, Ennard is guaranteed to go into his danger position if he's in either closet and makes another sound cue on that side. Let's see, I know I said there are 5.5 minigames. That is because on the second night you go underneath some weird desk to hide out. Here all you need to do is hold onto this door twice. That's it. I do not know how anybody dies in this minigame. If it isn't because you're filming for content, then you might just be shit at video games. Sorry. And that brings me to Sister Location's rating. And well, unironically, the Circus Baby minigame might be the hardest minigame in this entire game. That aside, none of the minigames are that difficult. Without practice, even I beat some of these on my first or second attempt. So that brings me down to only one placement. Above FNaF 1, Sister Location joins the Piss Easy tier.
Motion trigger. Service gallery event.
Shut up, GLaDOS! Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator? I sure hope I can simulate my Freddy's Pizzeria, am I right? Or simulate my difficulty, or some shit. FNaF 6 is split into 3 different sections. One classic night section where instead of surviving till 6 AM, you need to complete multiple different tasks that vary in length, while also fending off the animatronics with the help of different tools and your flashlight. More on that shortly. Then there's the salvage section where you need to either salvage the animatronic, resulting in them being added as one of your animatronics to deal with, or with you throwing them out, which won't add them into your office building. Lastly, there's arguably the most fun part, the Tycoon or Simulator section. Here you can buy stuff for your pizzeria, accept sponsorships, play mini games, all in order to make more and more money and get a higher and higher Faz rating. Along with that, FNaF 6 has a whopping 6 different endings which all vary in difficulty. Of this makes FNaF 6 arguably one of the most interesting and complicated in the whole series. To avoid confusion, I'll go through each of these aspects I just mentioned as quickly, but also filled with as much information as possible. So, the office sections. We're back again with Scott's favorite mechanic for some reason, audio cues. Similar to both FNaF 3 and 4, you'll have to locate the animatronics via audio cues that will tell you if they're either in your left or right vents. The interval times are all the same for every animatronic, but also change throughout the days, being every 8 seconds on Monday, every 5 seconds on Tuesday, every 4 seconds on Wednesday, 3 on Thursday, 2.5 on Friday, and 2 seconds on Saturday. You can tell if they're in either of your vents by either listening to the audio cues or with the help of the motion detection system that is on your terminal. As the name suggests, if an animatronic moves, you'll hear a sound cue while also projecting it on the map on the terminal. When the motion detector is turned on, it also displays all current animatronic locations, which can help you if you completely lose track of them. Along with that, the audio lures can be placed on any part of the map, giving the animatronic a chance to move towards that instead of advancing towards you, but only if they're in the range of it. Lastly, silent ventilation, which helps cool your office down while also making no noise. Including that, it is the only tool that also works when the terminal is turned off. Now, it's crucial to always make as little noise as possible, because all the animatronics always prefer going further to your office than away from it, while also being attracted to sound. Now, if an animatronic does make its way into the lowest part of the building, you will hear this sound cue on the respective side.
Fascinating what they have become.
This will play louder if they made their way into the vent next to you. At that point, you'll need to flash your light directly into the vent, which will prevent them from jump scaring you. If you hold your flashlight on them while also making noise with either your terminal or your fan, the animatronic will go back to the bottom corner of that side they're on. However, if both your terminal and fan are off and you have no tasks running and your office noise meter is at 10%, they'll be sent to the top corner of the building on their next 4-second interval. Speaking of the noise meter, it ranges from 0% to 100%. By default, it's already running at 10% during the whole night. The terminal and fan both add 20% when turning on or off, and 40% each to the noise meter when active. Two tasks also add 20% to your noise meter, being either the advertising task or the order supply task. Next up, there's your temperature meter you always want to keep track of. Here's the table IceeG made that shows how much temperature is gained or lost when different things are on or off. Once silent ventilation is on, it has a 50% chance to decrease the temperature by 1 degree every second. If you ever reach 120 degrees, your night will instantly end, resulting in an instant death shown with this passed out screen. Lastly, I have 2 quick notes I'd like to add. Any of the 5 ads you can select have a 25% chance to appear every 20 seconds, which will only start playing once you look back at the terminal. This will result in a 20% addition onto your noise meter. These ads can also interrupt any task you currently have running. Finally, you can purchase up to 3 different office upgrades, which all help reduce the time it takes for a task in a specific section to complete. If that already cooked your brain cells, then here's more. The salvage sections are probably the most confusing thing in this entire game, so I'll try my best to explain it. If you end up salvaging a new animatronic, it doesn't matter if you die or not, they will enter your office from that day onward. If you throw them back into the alley, they still have a way to get in, but I'll get to that. In simple terms, all you need to look out for in the salvages are 3 different things: animatronic movement, animatronic sound cues, and how many shocks you have left. Each of the 4 animatronics have 3 different aggression movements, 1 being safe, 2 being danger, and 3 being shock that bitch, as I'd like to call them. These visual cues rely on a hidden aggression meter that boils down to which stage the animatronic is currently at. These stages only update once you flip up the page. Also, this meter increases while the tapes are playing and if the animatronic itself is making any sound. Because during the sound Henry plays, there's a slight chance for the animatronic to make a specific sound. These sounds vary between all 4 animatronics. Here are all the different sounds along with the 3rd phase for each animatronic. If any of these sounds play, or if they're in the 3rd stage, you'd want to immediately shock the animatronic. Note that they can only jump scare you if their sound cue is playing or if you flip up your page. Lastly, you have 3 shocks during the salvage. If you shock a 4th time, the salvage value will get halved, which will result in you making less doubloons. But there's another way to get some cash in this game, that being the good old simulator section. In here you can cash farm, theorize, play fucking fruit punch clown I guess, and customize your pizzeria. This tycoon or simulator section doesn't impact the difficulty that much. Actually, it kinda does. We'll get to fruit punch clown in a second. If you want, there's a fun trick you can actually do before playing the game itself. That is if you select the bottom 4 toppings for your pizza. You start with an additional $100 on top of your already given money. Then you can buy different things from the catalog that improves your pizzeria. You'll start with Dumpster Diver Weekly. Unlock Stan's budget tag after spending $100, Smiles and Servos Incorporated after spending $1,000, and the Rare Finds auction after approximately $3,000. Inside all these catalogs you can either buy items to improve your overall pizzeria with either atmosphere, health and safety, entertainment, or bonus revenue. These items can range from simple pan stand to full-on stages, arcade machines, and animatronics. Some of these items bring risk into your pizzeria, which increases the chance of receiving a lawsuit. More on that in a second. Along with that, some items can be marked down, but as the warning note says, it can bring unwanted guests with it, which essentially, you probably guessed it, is the other way animatronics can appear in your office sections. The markdown system works as follows. Starting Tuesday, every day, 5 random items will be marked down, each of them giving a different amount of risk. Some of these items can take up a lot of space, so you need to upgrade your floor plan from time to time. Placing these items and playing minigames all add towards your total Faz rating. Every 1,000 points this Faz rating goes up will be an additional 100 doubloons into your pocket. And the higher your pizzeria stats are, the more money you'll receive at the start of each simulator section. Now when it comes to difficult minigames, there are only 3 that really stand out. Basketball, Gravity Vortex, and yes, fucking Fruit Punch Clown. Lemonade Clown, or Piss Clown really, is easier than Fruit Punch Clown because of his bigger circle, which is why I won't cover him.
Let's go.
Peace for everybody. Now, basketball is only hard if you don't know the strategy. Essentially, you want to hold down the spacebar while it's starting to give you 1 free point, and then you just need to time the minigame right to get up to 20 points for the max prize. You can get more than that, but that's just showing off. Gravity Vortex is arguably the hardest, with multiple different stages and its overall bullet hell-esque gameplay. If you're really good at it, however, it's probably the best moneymaker in this whole game. And yeah, Fruit Punch Clown. You see, Fruit Punch Clown has this scare radius around him, marked by the red circle. To win this minigame, you need to get all 9 kids in the circle and then press your spacebar. The thing that makes this whole minigame hell beyond belief is that each kid's movement is different. Each little shit will randomly generate the direction they'll move to. Once they chose the direction, they'll either stand still, move at 10 pixels per second, or 20 pixels per second. Once they get too close to one side, they will move to the other. Add it up to 9 different fucks and you have one nightmare, eye-irritating, brain-numbing minigame. But hey, I guess he has a funny voice line, so I guess that checks out.
For everyone!
Now then, let's talk difficulty and endings. The endings, believe it or not, are all very different and vary in all difficulties. Let's go from the easiest to the hardest. The certificate of mediocrity is awarded if you complete Saturday with a Faz rating of 0. No other things are needed. You'll get the certificate of insanity once you purchase the Egg Baby, go into the office section, then turn off the terminal, and finally turn it back on while holding left click on the power button. Then Henry's slapped-on speech plays.
He set some kind of trap. I don't know what it was, but he led them there again. He overpowered them again, and he robbed them of the only thing that they had again.
The certificate of bankruptcy is awarded if you, well, go bankrupt. In the lawsuit section, so if you have at least 1 risk and get a bit lucky, the more risk the better, you'll need to spend more money than you currently have, effectively going bankrupt. For the Lorekeeper certificate, you need to play all 3 lore-based games to completion. That means playing Midnight Motorist while going the fun secret way that appears right before the last finish line, or a bit after the 3rd. Play and win Fruity Maze 3 times. Note that you don't actually have to beat it the 3rd time, just play until this little cutscene plays. Also, did you know that this was a cape? not a gummy bear. Anyway, lastly, you need to play the security puppet minigame 3 times, and on the 4th time you'll need to exit the building and lay down next to Charlie. Now finish Saturday as you normally would, with or without the salvages. The penultimate certificate, or the certificate of completion, is awarded after beating the game while salvaging all 4 animatronics. It doesn't matter if you win these or not. Also, as far as I know, you have to have a Faz rating of at least 1. So it doesn't count as the mediocrity ending. The final and by far hardest ending, Blacklisted, is awarded after finishing the game with at least 50 risk. The reason it's so hard is because first off, you need to be lucky enough for the right items to be marked down with a certain amount of risk, while also needing the gameplay skill from the completion ending. And that does it. Didn't I tell you this game was huge and complicated? But what now? It's hard rating a game with so many different endings, with 3 of them being somewhat easy, 1 piss easy, another a proper challenge, and 1 with an even harder challenge. But with the addition of salvages, gameplay mechanics, minigames, and the ability to make this game real hard, excluding the harder Saturday, I think it's only fair putting FNaF 6 in the middle of the pack, ending up as our first game in mildly infuriating. So I've been digging through the game files of FNaF 6 and I think I found something that I wasn't supposed to see.
Tell anyone about this and I cut your throat.
So other...
No more fruit punch for you.
Oh my god! No, I don't want to be seen as a fraud or clickbaiter in any way, but when I tell you that Ultimate Custom Night is FNaF's hardest game by a mile, then I mean it. So I originally planned to talk about everything this game has, including the 50-20 mode, but then that was way too much, so I changed it to not contain the 50-20 mode. But even that ended up being a 12-page script, which, if you don't know, is about 30 minutes. This game is so incredibly detailed, with so many strategies I don't want to just brush over. So trust me when I say UCN deserves its spot in the hardest tier. And so you don't move over to the next game empty-handed, I'll give you a little hint of what's coming up in my next video. Broke my space bar. Oh my god. I fucking did it. Yes! Yes! Now it's time for fucking 50-20. Oh my god. Five Nights at Freddy's VR Help Wanted. More like Five Nights at Freddy's we are going to see how hard this game is. Help Wanted. Now, even though there's a flat mode version, I will still play it and rate it in VR because at the end of the day, it technically is how you're meant to play it. I haven't touched my VR since Help Wanted 2's release and it has to be used somehow. Also, my room is like a dozen Foxy plushes in size, which won't inflict my rating. Just thought I'd mention it in case you ever see me recenter myself in VR. FNaF VR's minigames are split into 7 different subcategories. FNaF 1 to 3, Dark Rooms, Parts and Service, Vent Repair, and Night Terrors. All of them also having a fun and most of the time more difficult Blacklight version you can access after beating all the normal ones for each category. That rounds up to a total of 41 somewhat different minigames. Note that you only have to beat 40 minigames to access the final minigame, but we'll get to that. Coins and collectibles in general also make their first appearance in this game. To spare you the trouble of hearing me yap about the first 3 games again, I'll only tell you the ideal way to beat each of their hardest versions. These strategies can be applied to all the normal nights as well. Right, for FNaF 1, you always want the animatronics to walk past you, so don't turn on the light as they walk past, because if you do turn them on, it'll cause them to stop and jump scare you if you don't close the door, which drains unnecessary power. Also, no need to turn on the lights if the animatronics are at your door. If you're in VR, you will see them. For Foxy, either wait for him to leave Pirate's Cove and close the door, or a pro strat, listen for his running sound cue and be quick with closing the door. Play this while sitting down. Holy shit. That scared the living shit out of me. Finally, once Freddy enters Camp 4B, he has a chance to advance to your door every 16 seconds. If he ever does go to your door, he won't leave for the rest of the night. Two fun strats also involve you throwing Chica's cupcake out your right door, so you can always tell if Chica's standing there when you can't see the candlelight, and the second has you leaning over to see Bonnie's arm at your left door. Whenever he's at your left door and you are uncertain if he left or not, you can lean over the desk and see if he's standing there or not. When it comes to FNaF 2, the strategy is probably the simplest. Using the exact same strategy you would for the original FNaF 2, but instead of flipping up the cams to wind up the music box after checking the right vent, just hold your hand over the wind button and just cycle between left vent, middle, right vent, middle, and so on. I also like calling this the Dorko strategy, which works pretty efficiently. The latest addition to FNaF VR actually included the Wizards in their own special night, since they don't show up in the normal Five Nights. Essentially being added on top of the already existing animatronics, but working as a sort of invisible version to their counterpart, being able to trick a blackout without you actually seeing them in the vents or in the hallway. This minigame also has a difficulty slider, but I wouldn't count any of these as particularly hard. Last up, FNaF 3. You'd want to reboot all as much as you can, like reboot that shit 24/7. The rest of the strat is the same as FNaF 3, so close the vent, do a spring trap to your desired place, listen, and so on. Just go back in the video if you forgot already. Now, fun stuff. Plush Trap and Nightmare BB work pretty much the same. For both of them you'll need to listen for these audio cues. For Plush Trap, flash right after the last footstep, and for Puberty BB, flash 1.5 seconds after the second to last footstep. The Blacklight minigames work the exact same, by the way. The next and by far hardest minigame is fun with plush babies, and especially the Blacklight version. The reason they're so hard is because they revolve around trial and error. Here's a screenshot DJ Sturf made, showing all the possible locations any of the 3 plush babies can spawn in. You start the night by fending off one plush baby, the second joins at 2 AM, and the third around 3 AM. Both nights are roughly 3 minutes in length. And the most important mechanic here is your flashlight. Your flashlight runs out of power really fast and regenerates quite slowly, which is why you see everyone who plays this flash it so much. Additionally, the red plush baby seems to spawn the most frequent, followed by the blue one and then the yellow one. Since there's almost no information about the AI in FNaF VR, I can't tell you how long they take to kill you, but you'll know when one is just about to kill you a couple seconds after they drop this banger of a voice line.
You won't die. You should have known I'd find you.
Where you at?
And when it comes to the Blacklight version, it doesn't change the minigame's core gameplay at all. They're only much harder to spot, but you're given a way bigger flashlight in return. Again, at its simplest, the game isn't really that hard once you play it enough. But you know what though? Fuck it anyway. This time you can't just spam towards victory, but we still have a nice strategy for Funtime Foxy and fucking Lolbit apparently. For both of these you want to count your steps, flashing after every 8th step or after roughly 5 seconds. Then you look where Funtime Foxy is and try to move around him. Same goes for Lolbit, but you'll also need to watch out that you don't bump into any of the other characters. These, as far as I know, walk in small circles and have a smaller hitbox than you actually think. I think Past Me said it the best way.
It looks hard, but it isn't.
That's what she said.
So when it comes to the next 2 minigame sections, they're really just experiences. Either do what hand unit instructs you to do, or use common sense to figure out what to do. With the Blacklight versions just being a fancier or a smidge harder versions than the normal one. However, the last minigame section does indeed have strats for you to use, starting with Funtime Freddy. Here, similar to FNaF 4, Funtime Freddy will either spawn in your right or your left hallway. I've never actually seen this before, but apparently can spawn right in front of the doors. Even if this is true, it is easily counteracted by shutting the door instantly. But it will spawn in one of the drawers in your room. If you don't flash her, she'll jumpscare you. Note that across all these jumpscares, Funtime Freddy is the only one that can kill you. Also, Bonbon can jumpscare you if you flash the hallway he's currently at without closing the door first, effectively working as a non-lethal Funtime Freddy. Nightmare Yawn will spawn at either the left or right side of your door. If he ever stays at your door for too long without you closing it, he will jumpscare you. Same goes if you flash him while he's at your door. Every time you close the door, you should flash your light into your room and hold it on any of the tentacles. These tentacles tentacles can spawn on all 3 sides of the bed, the ceiling, and the closet. If they stay wiggling for too long without your flashlight being on them, Nightmare Rion will again jumpscare you. In the best case scenario, or the ideal cycle, you always want to prioritize Nightmare Rion. As soon as you find him, shut the door and shine your light on each tentacle until it fully disappears. Then check for Nightmare Rion again and repeat that for roughly 3 minutes 30 seconds, and that's that. Baby's version of Night Terrors is probably the easiest of them all, since this time you are in the closet in the game and Baby will spawn in your room, looking for some shit, I don't know. Whatever the case, after a couple seconds she will slowly turn over to you and then begin fastly approaching your location. If she gets to a close enough point, close the door and hold it there for about 4 to 5 seconds. If you keep it closed for too long, the plush babies will get you. However, if you open it too early, Baby will creepily stand in front of the closet and won't instantly kill you, but you need to close the closet as fast as possible. Fredbear is probably the single worst programmed animatronic in this whole game. When I say that I've seen Fredbear work differently for like 4 people, including myself, then I swear it's gotta be the game. So at its core he works just like in FNaF World, but without the footsteps. He'll either go into your right or left hallway, slowly sneaking towards that door, and if you see him there, close the door, wait a couple seconds. Real and fake laughs also return here. But literally, and this is so funny, for me he will not appear in my right hallway no matter what I do. For Astro Spiff and a couple others, he cannot be gotten rid of if he enters your closet at 5 AM. And for many others, he'll instantly spawn at the door instead of walking in the hallway if you flash your light at him. That is supposed to be his mechanic. He'll instantly spawn at your door if you flash right at him. But for me, he just doesn't. He just walks in my left hole whenever I flash that. Again, don't know what happened here, it never got fixed. If any of you know anything about this, please do let me know. This counts for every part of the video, the more knowledge the better. Finally, the blacklight version of Night Terrors is another experience, without a real strategy. There's a set path you can walk to not keep walking in circles, but all you do here is choose your own pizza toppings and cake flavors in a little maze, which is all it boils down to. I meant to keep things short for I wanted, but there is so much to talk about that defines the difficulty of this game. But what would that difficulty actually be? Well, it's definitely harder than pretty much all 4 initial games, except maybe FNaF 2, which brings me down to a perfect middle spot just below FNaF 6 in mildly infuriating.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Pushing 20, by the way.
FNaF VR has a DLC, Curse of Dreadbear? More like Curse of How Hard is Dreadbear Really? Wait, that sounds wrong. I Wanted 2's DLC adds a whopping 10 new minigames in 3 different sections. Afraid of the Dark, Spooky Mansion, and Danger Keep Out. The latter one being FNaF 1 again, but with different mechanics. 1 more Plush Babies level, and 4 levels I'd give the Experience tag. So that just leaves us with 2 somewhat challenging levels. Now before talking about these, I'd again quickly like to go over the Danger Keep Out FNaF 1 styled levels. In Night 1, you face off against Jack of Barney and Chica. In Night 1, you face off against Jack of Barney and Chica. Night 2 at Scrim Foxy, and Night 3 Dreadbear. Jack of Barney. Okay, the actual names are Jack O'Barney, but hey, whatever, right? The gameplay works as follows. Besides surviving till 6 AM, your power mechanic is completely different. To get rid of the mains, Bonnie and Chica, you can either flash them when they approach your door, which will teleport them back into the dining hall, or freeze them for a couple seconds if you flash them on the camera. Grim Foxy will appear in Pirate's Cove. He'll move twice on that camera before running to your office. You never want him to run to your office though, because if he hits your door, you're instantly dead. It's possible to flash him in the hallway with your door light, but that has a near frame perfect window, and I'm not DJ Sturf, I'm not gonna do that. So you always want to flash him, ideally before resetting the power. We'll get to that in a second. Lastly, Dreadbear will either walk on the right side of the building, being the dining hall, toilets, kitchen, and then your right hallway, or the left side, again dining hall, then parts and service, Pirate's Cove, and lastly into your right hallway again. I've heard people mention that he can also walk into your left hallway, but I've never actually seen concrete evidence for that. Either way, you need to flash him every time you see him move on the cameras, which will freeze him for a good amount of time. If he ever gets into your hallway, you will hear this glass break sound.
Risky, I don't know what.
And then you can also freeze him with your door lights, which will freeze him for a short amount of time. Now, the power system is pretty easy to understand. It starts at 100%. Every flash, be it a hallway flash or camera flash, will take 20% of that power. To get it back up to 100%, you need to reset the power, which will disable everything in your office for about 10 seconds. If you ever get the power to 0%, however, it will reset on its own, taking around 15 seconds till it's rebooted. For a final note, Bonnie and Chica will punch your door 3 times before killing you, and Dreadbear will insta-hit your doors down, killing you pretty much immediately if not flashed. So staying vigilant is crucial for this section. On to hallway. This one is pretty straightforward, quite literally. You need to walk forward, only needing to stand still if the lightning flashes and you see Foxy, or if any animatronic opens a door. If you do walk past an animatronic with an open door, you will be dead. The hitbox for those doors is bigger than you think, by the way. Lastly, after you reach a certain point in the hallway, Freddy will start chasing you from behind. He's a bit slower than you as far as I know, but will not stop for anything. So in broad strokes, you want to have a smidge of door RNG and a semi-good reaction time. As a final note, saying this because I didn't know it when playing myself, is that Foxy will disappear if you run into him in the dark. Skipping past the fun little minigames and fuck you plush babies is Corn Maze. In Corn Maze you need to navigate through, guess what, a maze. Inside this maze are 4 keys, with the 5th and final key appearing after you collected all other 4. Here are all the key spawn locations in a map Reddit user pay2c username made. The final golden purple key whatever can spawn in any of these locations at random. The main threat for this minigame is again Grim Foxy. He will spawn in a random location near you, walking faster the more keys you have collected. If you ever trigger the crows by walking over them, he will run towards you quite fast. Along with that, he always knows where you are at all times. Ideally, you always want him to see you, make this alert noise, and then hide in any of these hiding spots scattered around the map. As soon as he spots you, he will run very fast, so you want to hide as quickly as possible. Once you've hid from him, he'll completely despawn for a couple of seconds, and then spawn in a random location near you. This cycle repeats until you either collect 1 key and go out the designated door, or collect all 5 keys and go out through the hatch thingy in the middle of the maze. So all in all, this minigame isn't that hard, but can be quite annoying once you start looking for the final key. I myself took like 20 minutes to complete it, but that's because I could not find the last key.
So excited to say,
I found it! There it is!
yes! Finally, fucking hell.
As a final rundown, as for difficulty from the experiences, Pirate Ride is probably the easiest and Build 'em Angle the hardest. So that brings me back to the tier list. All in all, I would definitely not say that the DLC is as hard as the main game, but also not piss easy in any way. So it's only fitting that Help Wanted's DLC is okay. I mean, it's not as hard as FNaF 4, but still, it's okay. Freddy in Space 2. Let's hope it's not too hard. The first proper FNaF spin-off, Freddy in Space 2, was made by Scott Cawthon for MadPat's charity event back in 2019. And it's essentially Freddy in Space from FNaF World, but a bit different. Since this applies to all 3 spin-offs I'll talk about, I'll mention it now to keep the video's runtime within a reasonable limit. So I'll only focus on what's important regarding the difficulty of these spin-offs. No extra thingies. So aside from the story this game has, it features similar gameplay aspects as Freddy in Space from FNaF World. It's entirely 2D, with the core gameplay loop being shooting and killing enemies or bosses to gain XP, to then gain more health and stronger weapons. All in all, there are 4 levels with 3 bosses each. Defeating each of the final bosses will result in unlocking a new character. It can be speculated, but unlocking Chica after beating the 3rd level will give you the best character in, well, Chica. As for the levels, they're all made up to be as confusing as possible, with secret passages, bosses, unlockables, and extra weapons. None of these are particularly difficult. The confusing level design is where this game gets its difficulty. Finally, after beating all 4 levels, you get to fight Lolzhax, the final boss, who isn't that difficult either, only being a real challenge if you have a low level character or no extra weapons. So for that reason, I'll place Freddy in Space 2 right above FNaF World in the piss easy tier. Security Breach Fury's Rage. I sure hope no furries rage in this game. Or get hard. Wait, that's not what I meant. Released to keep the hungry FNaF fans at bay, while Security Breach gets another delay. Scott made this fun little spin-off as a game not to be taken that serious. Essentially, you place any of the 4 main animatronics in a very interesting art style to say the least, each having their own little quirks and special attacks. Essentially all this is a fun side-scrolling beat-em-up type game where you play through 4 different levels while fighting different waves of animatronics with a final boss at the end. Dead enemies or boxes in the background can either give you energy for your super attack, food or health I should say, jewelry and gold counting towards your high score, and little Scots who turn into big scary Scott if you use them. Additional notes for this game are that there's an extra stage if you play hard mode, which is not too hard unless your name is Louis Dorcas Games Dawkins. And as far as I know, you unlock a 3rd star if you don't use Scots for the whole playthrough on hard mode. That aside, while the 3rd star can be difficult, I'd be stupid to put this game in any other tier than the easiest. So we'll place it just above FNaF World and on the same level as Freddy in Space 2 in the piss easy tier. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. You know what to say about security breaches, they can be quite hard. As for this game, well, FNaF Security Breach is an undeniably gigantic game filled with content. This game is massive. 6 different endings, tons of collectibles, hidden CDs and fucking Mesa size. I guess, to sum it up, if you were to do 6 different playthroughs, each getting everything this game has to offer, it would take hours. Like we're talking almost 20 hours of pure intense gaming. What I'm saying with this is that obviously I cannot and will not go through the entire game. This video is already going on way longer than I wanted it to, and we have to cover 4 more games. So let me just go through what I consider to be the most important stuff regarding the difficulty of Security Breach. Let's start with the general gameplay and mechanics. So the game can be split up in a lot of different sections or main objectives. All the way from Freddy's starting room, the daycare, Weeping Angel Endos to Fazbear, Monty Golf, Burntrap's lair, each varying in difficulty. Additionally, each noteworthy animatronic, being Monty, Chica, Roxy, DJ Music Man and the daycare attendant, all have what Steelbook calls them boss fights. Apparently Vanny to whatever. Most underused character in all of FNaF. No, they're not your typical boss fights. No consort Rodon difficulty. No, you don't fight against the animatronics directly, like with literally every boss fight ever. You almost always get chased by the quote-unquote boss while needing to complete certain tasks. These vary from turning on generators to shooting balls into a bucket, I guess. After defeating Chica, Roxy and Monty, you'll get an item that you can then use to upgrade Freddy with, giving him a fancy new voice that opens up special doors and scares animatronics, eyes with which you can see secret CDs and collectibles through walls, and finally claws that again can be used to open special doors. As an additional note, inside some gifts you get what I call Gregory upgrades. Oh yeah, you play as this little kid, by the way, forgot to mention that. Being 4 stamina upgrades, 1 speed, 1 visibility and 3 flashlight battery upgrades. On top of that, whichever path you choose in the game, you can either collect the Phaser Blaster or the Fast Camera. Whichever you choose, they can both be used to stun the animatronics. Note that one requires you to have some good ass aim, only stunning them if you shoot them in the eyes, and the other, well, good reaction time I guess, with one bright ass flash that stuns everything in a certain range that reaches quite far. As a final mechanics note, Monty pre-boss fight cannot be stunned at all, and same goes for Roxy post-boss fight. Glitches and performance issues aside, there really isn't a real strategy when it comes to Security Breach. It all revolves around how well you know the game and how the animatronics work. Speaking of, they either roam around and will only begin chasing you if you're within line of sight, or if you trigger a staff bot who always roam in a set path. You'll know an animatronic has seen you if you hear this sound. If you trigger a staff bot, a certain animatronic will either spawn very close to you, or what happens most of the time, behind you and immediately begin chase. Now at first glance it seems like this is almost always certain death. Well, it actually isn't. You can either call Freddy to your exact location, keep that in mind, exact location, and enter him, resulting in the animatronics forgetting where you are, or you are a true gamer god and run away from them, breaking line of sight as much as possible. If that seems too difficult, just stand on the table, that works fine too. Works in the latest patch too, so that will probably never be fixed. Finally, let's talk endings and difficulty. Like I briefly mentioned, there are 6 different endings you can get, so let's talk about each of them from easiest to hardest. The escape ending, and by far the easiest ending, is achieved by surviving till 6 AM and escaping through the main entrance. No extra collectibles or anything really is needed to achieve this ending, making it by far the easiest. Next up, the disassemble Vanny ending is similar to the escape ending. Again, you'll need to survive till 6 AM and reach the main exit, but this time you'll need to have visited Vanny's hideout and Fazbear at least once during your playthrough. So just go to Fazbear instead of Monty Golf when given the chance. Now select going to Vanny's hideout instead of escaping, walk up to a room and press the button and it's done. No extra things needed. With the getaway ending or car escape ending you can get after reaching security bridge level 7, then escaping through the big garage doors behind the kitchen. Like I said, you need to have at least collected 7 different security badges out of the 8 possible ones. This is the first ending that requires you to stay after reaching the main exit. Now throughout your main playthrough you collect 6 different badges, so ideally go to the main objective locations you didn't go to in your main playthrough, being Monty Golf and Fazblast, or the kitchen and Superstar Arcade. Then just walk up to the button in the garages and exit. The Princess Quest ending is achieved by doing the disassemble Vanny ending but beating the Princess Quest Arcade minigame instead of pressing the button. This arcade is only available if you beat the 2 previous Princess Quest arcades, the first one being in the Roxy Salon and the second at the end of the Fazcade. These minigames aren't that difficult but still harder than the previous 3. The penultimate ending, the Rooftop, Firescape or VIP ending, can only be accessed by collecting 39 non-essential collectibles, then escaping through the exit inside the Superstar Arcade. So these collectibles contain everything beside, well, essential collectibles, like the flashlight or arcade tickets, stuff like that. The reason this ending is so high is because it requires you to actually explore instead of just running through. And then the final and by far hardest ending, the Bird Trap ending, is achieved by doing every boss fight, upgrading Freddy with all 3 essential upgrades, then doing a whole new boss fight in a whole new area. All this requires you to do almost everything there is in this game. So that brings me down to the difficulty rating. Now with extra strats, glitches or non-intended mechanics and game knowledge overall, this game is piss easy. No doubt about that. But I think that beats the point this whole video is about. So whether you like this game or not, whether you have played it once or 100 times, you can't deny that on a clear objective basis, this game is definitely not easy. Is it hard? No. So I think the perfect place for it is just underneath FNaF 4, clearly stating that FNaF Security Breach is okay. It's okay, it's fine, it's okay. Okay, let's cross our fingers. Come on, Freddy. We will not crash recording. No crashes today. No Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breaches DLC Ruin. Sure is hard, according to Speed. Okay, that was uncalled for. Ruin, Security Breach's successor, takes place a good while after the main game, with everything, including the animatronics, being in, well, Ruin, believe it or not. So the main movement is relatively similar to Security Breach, with the only change being Cassie, who walks slower than Patrick's Rock, with the stamina consumption of fucking Ethan Bazinga. Including that, the gameplay is a lot more linear than Security Breach, following a set path with 3 new additions. A mask that lets you see in a different world, the Faz Wrench, which can be used to access cams, do this weird puzzle that appears quite often, and breach the security. And finally, Springtrap's cooler younger brother, fucking Giga Chad. Look at him, bro's just aura farming. Jokes aside, the entity, protector of MXES, or Chat Trap, as I like calling him for obvious reasons, acts like the protector of the mask world. If you have the mask on for too long, he'll spawn. Now, he won't directly kill you, but pretty much teleport you inside an animatronic if you ever touch him in the mask world, resulting in an instant death. So you avoid him by taking off your mask and not putting it on for a couple seconds. Additionally, animatronics cannot see you or attack you once you have your mask on. They'll only jumpscare you if you directly walk into them. The main gameplay revolves around you looking for the mother node that locks the path you need to go to progress. Looking for a set amount of child nodes who lock access to the mother nodes, while also trying to avoid certain animatronics or chat trap. I know I never really talked about the story of these games because, well, that's not the point of the video, but you do all this to save Gregory. But would you know, it actually secretly is. Too fun not to include that one. Aside the random collectibles only visible in the AR world, you also get to experience what it's like being schizophrenic, I guess.
Keep your distance. The door is open. The gator breath. Look in the camera. You should be able to. The door is open. Find it.
Shut your ass, Gregory. I think all this does is just tell you where to go, which is definitely better than the stupid tips Security Breach has. No one's checking the cameras! Fuck off! Also, sometimes you need to look for stuff on the cameras and detect the anomalies in the right order, or lure animatronics with the intercom. None of these are particularly hard, though. And yeah, I mean, that I guess covers all of Ruin's difficulty. Well, difficulty. The far more linear approach Ruin takes really takes a toll on the difficulty. I mean, during the recording of my gameplay, I think I died like only once. And that was with me being a total idiot. Hello, Chica. Oh! Granted, I've played this game before, but I'd still like to mention that. So whether or not you think Ruin is better than Security Breach, you gotta admit that it sure is easier. Which is why I put it just below sister location in the piss easy tier. Also, this is for anyone who thinks Ruin has like no glitches or is perfect. What the fuck? FNaF the movie, the game. Freddy in Space 3, or should I say fan service in Space 3, because this game sure is hard, alright. I don't know who convinced Scott to make yet another Freddy in Space game instead of FNaF World 2, but Freddy in Space 3 is another one of Scott's little spin-off games not to be taken that serious. This rendition of Freddy in Space uses, wow, Chica in Space. No, uses pretty much the same gameplay approach as Freddy in Space 2, but made a bit better. Instead of using different characters for weapons and mechanics, you can either buy them in a shop or collect them from these little boxes. Now, some weapons are either dead OP, like really OP, or kinda ass. Along with that, there yet again are 4 different levels split into 2 smaller sub-levels each. So 8 all in all. Beating all 4 will result in a fun little Scott boss fight, which then gives you a small little movie teaser YouTube link after killing him. Now, difficulty aside, I know everyone talks about Scott acknowledging the ungodly amounts of, well, spicy hard, but fuck me, Mean Cavern has like the best soundtrack to ever exist. Just listen to this. Peak. Truly peak. As for difficulty with the right weapons, I'm sure there is some difficulty in this, but I think, at least until now, we found the easiest FNaF game ever. Yeah, you go into the low part of piss easy. Okay, let's... Damn! FNaF Help Wanted 2, more like Help Wanted Too Easy for me. 40 additional minigames are present in Help Wanted sequel. To Help Wanted 2's detriment, or benefit for some people, none of these are particularly challenging. 18 of these minigames are only unlocked after gaining access to the game's hard mode, which is unlocked after beating 16 other minigames. These minigames can vary in difficulty and funness? That even a word? Funability aside, these minigames range from Fixing Helpy, 9 to 5 Simulator The Game, DJ Music Man's Memory Check, Actual Memory Matching, a Carnival-esque VR Aim Trainer, Sister Location in VR, and every furry's favorite, Roxy's Kissing Sim... Wait, who put this? Giving Roxy a makeover, just to name a few. So, to put it bluntly, Help Wanted 2's minigames are all just experiences. None of these requires skill by the technical term, and all vary in difficulty from person to person, essentially being a nightmare to the ideal objective rating I'm going for. So after careful consideration, I came to the conclusion to only cover either the hardest or most interesting minigames. Fizzy Fast Night 5 is unlocked after beating all previous nights and is one of the hard mode minigames. In the 5th edition, but also in the previous nights, you're tasked with making a set amount of drinks with varying ingredients. By giving your coworkers a break from time to time, you avoid them becoming hostile. If either Chica or an angry staff bot does come to your door, they will jumpscare you if you don't set the building into lockdown fast enough. In addition to that, you will also instantly fail the night if you don't complete the executive order, who can only appear once during the night at random. These strategies vary from player to player, but ideally you never want to send a drink away if one of the ingredients are empty. You should also never waste an ingredient by dumping everything at once. What is recommended, and the thing I do in my runs, is once an ingredient is at around 5 or 6, you want to fill your cup with that ingredient till it's back to like 4 and dump it. Sometimes you get lucky and get the right drink when one ingredient is full, but don't count on it. Make about 13 drinks including the executive order and you'll be done. Another one a lot of people struggle with is actually Endo's Warehouse or memory matching. But not because their memory sucks, but because of the mostly weeping angels or endoskeletons who will activate from time to time, moving towards you if you're not looking at them. You can kill them once they're close enough with a flash, but remember you also want to remember the cards you were shown. As far as I know, there's no time limit in this. Each turn you have the option to look at the cards twice, and there are 5 turns in total. In addition, you also have the option to make 2 wrong choices each turn, and here's a little strategy if your memory is as bad as mine.
I forgot already.
So you only need to complete 5 memory puzzles that only get harder the first 3 times and then keep the difficulty. So as you can see in the final one, you just want to be as quick with the memory matching as possible. At the last couple stages, remember like 3 matches and match them as quickly as possible. Then reveal the cards and repeat. It may seem tempting to kill all endos at first, but you will not remember anything, trust me. And the endos will not stop spawning after you killed one. First aid can be quite fun for the first 2, but also a bit of a challenge if you goof around too much. Now this may come as a surprise for the 3 of you who played this and know how easy this minigame is. I just want to quickly highlight how important it is to keep a clean workplace. So ideally, whenever you hear an animatronic approaching, you want to look at that animatronic to make them leave, similar to FNaF 6. However, if an ad shows up, you need to close it immediately. Good luck with that when your remote you used to stop the ad with is beneath a bunch of random shit. Lastly, to speedrun a couple games. For both Yendo and FNaF Freddy, you always want to start with the 2 level ones first. For Ballora, going slow is preferred, but not necessary. For the Funtime private room, always close both doors for Funtime Foxy. Trust me when I say that bitch does not choose one hallway to always visit, and you will not be fast enough to close the right door. And lastly, for any DJ Music Man game, make up your own silly sentence to best describe the scenery and keep saying that over and over. Something like this.
Lightning Freddy, City Edwin. Lightning Freddy, City Edwin.
So that pretty much covers Help Wanted 2. Difficulty aside, it's probably the most fun FNaF game, and for difficulty, well, it has some aspects that can make up the difficulty. Let's not talk about boiling a turkey for an achievement. The 2 endings there aren't too difficult. One just has you collecting all little action figures, essentially playing all minigames, and you get the other one by collecting all secret plushies and then beating the final princess quest. To rank them, I'd say the normal one is harder, because you'll need to beat all minigames, and for the princess quest one, you'll need to just beat like half the minigames. To put it in a tier list perspective, I'd say it isn't piss easy in any way, but also just barely scrapes itself past sister location, so it is okay. You go, Help Wanted 2.
Wanted to grab it. That was a genuine reaction, by the way.
FNaF Into The Pit. I must admit, this game is not easy. Taking it further, I find here a... Okay, enough of that. Into The Pit isn't really a traditional spin-off, nor is it a mainline FNaF game, as far as I'm concerned. Whatever the case, this work of art will be our final game for today, taking place in a world where you teleport to the past if you jump into a ball pit.
Ball pit! Come hard. Oh, ball pit.
More story aside, this game is essentially a mix of fetch quests combined with a SNES styled FNaF game where you hide from Spring Bonnie, Purple Guy, Into the Pit Bonnie, whatever. So I just checked, bro has no official name in the game, that's fun. Either way, the main objective is rescuing your dad. Over a span of 5 nights, more and more threads get added to the night section, taking place in the past. Now what makes this game interesting is that you can actually select the difficulty of the whole game before you start. Note, this isn't just any FNaF World difficulty selection screen, these actually truly impact the difficulty of the game. Now, how do you rank this game as a whole when the easiest possible difficulty is below most games and the hardest being, let's just say, a contender for our highest tiers? Well, let me first explain what the difficulty settings actually mean. So, the first 2, creepy and frightening, are the only 2 difficulties you start with. By beating any ending, except the escape ending we'll get to, you unlock both terrifying and nightmare. These difficulties change the animatronics' aggression and appearance chances. The easiest being slow animatronics who won't see you very often, the highest being fast and smart animatronics who also appear very often. In addition, the harder the difficulty is, the less hiding spots and noisemakers to lure the animatronics with there are in the game. And lastly, Nightmare mode is the only mode where if you die at all during the game, you lose all of your progress. I'm talking save file deleting progress. You see where I'm going with this? All of these are very crucial for your playthrough. So I decided it's best to just go in the middle of the pack with a hint of spice. Or, in normal terms, I'll be going with the terrifying mode. Since the playthrough is about 2 hours, I'll spare you the details of what you do in each night. So, first off, how does Pit Barney actually work? Well, he'll always be roaming around the building looking for you. I think he has a set path, but don't quote me on it. If you're ever within his line of sight, he will begin chasing you. He'll only get faster and faster, so there's no outrunning him. Now, he'll only get aggressive once you either activate some sort of distraction or if he hears or sees you. Once he sees you, you want to run inside a room he isn't in and hide. This is where the little reaction time minigame takes place. These can vary, but all come down to quick reaction and timing. In addition, each night, starting at the second, an animatronic is added. The first one being Chica, who works like a slower version of Pit Barney, making an alerting noise if she sees you. Then there's Barney, who hides underneath tables and will grab you if you try to hide where he is hiding. Then lastly Freddy, who will also alert Pit Barney if you go to the door he's looking out from. When it comes to a concrete strategy, I'm sorry to disappoint, but there really is none. This game revolves a ton about game knowledge, knowing what's up next and how the AI works. What I can tell you though, is that you never want to enter a room Pit Barney is in. You will hear him if he's in the room next to you, so always wait until you hear no more footsteps and you'll be guaranteed to not see him at all, making little use of the hiding minigames this game has. Speaking of minigames, besides some fucking banger OSTs, it's clear they aren't there for a challenge, just having some difficulty if you don't know how to do puzzles. These are required for some endings, so I'll mention them in a bit. Actually, let's talk about them now. So Into the Pit has 5 different ending. I'll yet again, and for a final time, rank from the easiest to the hardest. The easiest ending, without a doubt, is the escape ending, or hobo ending as some people call it. To get this ending, all you need to do is leave the pizzeria in the past within any of the 5 nights. The What Am I ending is given to you if you fail one of the last quick time events in night 5. Then just turn into Robot Oswald, I guess. The 1-star ending is achieved by beating the main game as normal. No extra collectibles or arcade machines needed. You know where this is going. You get the 2-star ending by, again, beating the main game as normal, but you'll need to have collected all 5 of Dad's pictures, resulting in an extra picture being dropped in the end of the game. Pick this one up and you'll get the 2-star ending after completing the final quicktime events. The 3-star ending, and by far hardest ending, is achieved when doing the same thing as the 2-star ending, with the addition of fixing and beating all arcade machines and playing all 3 secret minigames. You find these 3 secret minigames by 1. Using 5 vouchers on the price counter machine in the Ballpit world, 2. Calling your mom on the 5th night, also inside the Ballpit world, and lastly, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but after interacting with this one gumball machine for 100 times, you get the 3rd and last minigame. Then just beat the game as normal and look at whatever this cutscene is. And I guess that's it for the difficulty of Into the Pit. So what are my notes? This game can vary so much on the difficulty, it's crazy, endings and all, but with the consideration of what the game intends you to see and do, I think it's no joke. I think that even for the best players, this game can be mildly infuriating. Also, before closing off the video, am I the only one who hears some weird fucking background noise during the game? Like, listen to this. Write your essay, what? Oh yeah, Oswald, you hear that? So, to answer the question of if the FNaF games got easier over time, well, I'd say no. Some people forget to take into consideration that FNaF maybe wasn't all that hard to begin with. The main games can be a bit hard, but realistically not too much, resulting in a final verdict. How hard is Five Nights at Freddy's really? I'd say middle of the pack difficulty, but they can be a lot harder. I mentioned it at the very start, but if you're someone still watching, at 500 likes I'll be playing every single max mode FNaF has to offer. So subscribe and hit that bell to not miss it. And that does it. What is probably my longest video ever, and by a long shot that is. It's definitely weird doing the best objective analysis of each game I can. Yeah, if you didn't forget already, this video has as little possible personal bias or anything in it. The list can vary a lot based on personal preference and knowledge, so I hope I gave you the best possible objective tier list. Now this video wouldn't be here without some amazing people, so big shoutouts to DJ Sturf, It's Taken, Tech Rules, The Bones 5 and Ambience for making incredibly detailed videos on how these games work, strategies and much more. Also a personal shoutout to Econex and Surf55 for helping me adjust the tier list with some additional notes to make it contain as little personal bias as possible. Trust me, the list would look very different if they didn't help me with that. With all of that said, remember to follow my Twitter for video updates, and I've been your host, IceeG, signing off.